This is Sean Kanan, and you're watching the Break It Down show.
My man Sean is back once again. It's fun to have you on, and also sitting right seat with me and co-hosting, fellow Benicia Boy. Found out Sean Ryan's an actor as well. He's from a series called L.A. Macabre. I always want to say La Macabre, L.A. Macabre, and he's an actor, and so I thought it'd be fun to have him on. And then turns out we didn't realize this when we first recorded. He's from Benicia, so he's going to join us in and give us some of the actor type questions that we love to have. But man, first off, thanks for coming on the show. You're a busy dude.
Yeah, I got a lot going on. It's good stuff. Yeah, I just got back from a couple weeks in Puerto Rico, where I was filming a movie there. And today is the day that my book is going to print, my third book, Way of the Cobra. So
nice.
Good stuff.
Yeah. So I guess the big question that we got to cover right away is
my hair.
Is
I have got a mohawk. I mean,
that's true. I want to get into this movie that you did with Bruce Willis, but let's cover Cobra Kai, because everybody wants to know, is Mike Barnes going to be in Cobra Kai?
That seems to be a very popular question these days.
Yeah, that's why I got to ask it.
Well, I can neither confirm nor deny it.
Okay.
Out of respect for the show and the producers and everything, I've sort of made the conscious decision that it's just not something I'm going to answer, and the fans are going to have to tune in and they'll find out for themselves.
It's a fair question and a fair answer. I want to ask you this, and I want to spend a little bit of time with Mike Barnes, but there's not a lot to know about Mike's background. I think that his dad was in Vietnam and came back kind of messed up, and that kind of messed Mike up. That's my thought.
Okay.
And then,
Sure, why not?
And then here's the thing, though, right? Here's the thing. He becomes a tap and tool guy salesman and does pretty well. Moves to the Midwest, and he does all right. And turns out he just outgrows all that stuff and matures and becomes a pretty mellow dude. Still can whoop ass, but doesn't choose to.
Listen, why not? I like it. I mean, I suppose anything's possible. I've heard some fan came up with the idea that Mike is an anger management counselor, and Daniel and Johnny are court mandated to go get anger management counseling, and Mike is their counselor. So I thought that's great too.
Ryan, what's your backstory for Mike Barnes?
Well, I was thinking that he just never got over the loss, and we've seen a lot of these bad guys become friends or become good guys on Cobra Kai. So let's have him stay kind of, the heavy, stay the bad guy, and just show up and demoralize LaRusso at every point of his life. Keep showing up like Mike Barnes did.
I think either way would be fun.
Yeah. How would you write it, Sean? I mean, you're a writer. How would you write Mike Barnes if you were going to, have you ever seen that thing when they deconstruct Karate Kid and they turn Danny Russo into the bad guy? Like, how would you do it?
I like the idea that Barnes, one of two things happened. He either went to prison or he went to the military and got straightened out and became an honorable guy, but something happens during the course of his visit to the Cobra Kai universe that pushes him, and he's able to tap back into that other part of his personality when he needs it. So that we see that there's been some emotional growth and change, but when push comes to shove, he can still draw upon that internal psychopath that he has.
And then what job do you think he had in the Army? Is he like a light wheel mechanic, cook? What is he going to do?
I would really hope he wasn't like a munition specialist.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, Mike wasn't the smartest tool in the shed. I mean, he did get baffled by a kata. So I don't know. Maybe he had a great singing voice and he entertained the troops. I don't know.
This is what I was going to say. Maybe he goes all Army chorus.
Yeah.
All Army chorus. He's a some job, but they said, no. You've got this angelic singing voice. Please come do this with us.
Beautiful. Just a beautiful, high-pitched, angelic singing voice. I love that. That would definitely have to be dubbed for me.
Yeah. It's funny. Oh, man. Anything to add to that, Ryan?
Oh, man. Well, I mean, singing voice would be great. I'd love to see him sing in front of a whole group of troops. That'd be hilarious. That'd be great. But yeah.
Let's get into this this new movie you just did with Bruce Willis. How much can you talk about?
Well, I can tell you it was done for a company called Emmett Furlow, which does a lot of they do a lot of pretty good sized movies. I think Bruce signed a 3-picture deal with these guys, and this is the first of 3 films that he's going to be doing with that company. The director is a guy by the name of James Cullen Bressack, and I've done, I think this is my 5th film with him. And so
yeah.
any James gives me a call, I kind of jump at the chance to work with him. And, it was fun because initially in the script, I was in a fair amount of the film, but really didn't say much of anything. And the thing I like about working with James is I know that whenever I do a film with him, he really is good about giving me latitude to ad lib, come up with dialogue. And so by the time we were done, it's a pretty good part. I wanted to do something with the character because I sort of looked like a intimidating, thuggish guy with a mohawk and everything. But I thought it'd be funny if he was kind of, a little more like the comedic relief. And so the character actually is a pretty funny character. And listen, I grew up watching Bruce Willis films. I mean, I'm a huge Bruce Willis fan. Who isn't? Anyone of my generation is a huge Bruce Willis fan. Die Hard apart. I mean, Sin City, Fifth Element. I mean, Tears of the Sun. I mean, it just goes on and on and on and on. And to be able to say that I had the privilege of working with them is something that was pretty special.
Was it kind of? Did you ever get starstruck, or was it just kind of like were you able to put that aside?
No, you can't really get starstruck. I mean, listen. I'm a professional. I've got a job to do, but I leading up to filming, I was like, oh, this is really cool.
When you first saw Die Hard, I mean, like we knew Goshmar era, we knew that Bruce Willis was something he had done. I mean, Moonlighting was so great, at least.
Sure.
And then I saw Die Hard, and that didn't make sense. Like I'd snuck into the movies, my friends were already there, and we snuck in right when he's walking across the glass, and it was like, what is this? This is not funny at all.
Yeah.
But I mean, it kind of broke my brain, and then we stayed and we watched the whole movie again because it was so damn good. I mean, who expected that from him, right?
I don't know if he was one of the first guys to do it, but he really epitomized, guys that are the heroes in films having a really witty, sort of acerbic sense of humor, as opposed to, you would see in generations past, you'd see John Wayne, and they were a little more of, I guess, a traditional hero. And I think, a lot of what Bruce did was very sort of self-deprecating and funny. And that's, at least for me, what really connected me to a lot of his performances.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, because he made fun of himself in that movie, but he was still a badass. He's still and have
a few laughs.
Let's go. Yeah. And then this project here, how much can you talk about it besides like just the Bruce Willis and the company? Can you talk anything about the story at all or no?
Let's see. Chad Michael Murray stars in it, who people will know from One Tree Hill and the myriad of other jobs that he's had. Let's see. What else can I tell you? It's called Killing Field. The entire thing takes place over the course of one day, and I guess the best way that I could describe it is the way the director describes it, that it's literally like an action movie dropping on the front lawn of Chad Michael Murray's character. It's just a lot of action and shoot 'em up and stuff like that happens in one location over the course of one day. Looks like a lot of fun. I'd go see this film.
When does it come out?
I don't know. I don't know when it comes out. If I had to guess, I'd say probably about 4 months. There's a lot of posts to be done, and I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure that it's going to come out for home viewing, because really there's not a whole lot of stuff going to theaters these days.
Right.
I mean, if I were producing it, I would want to capitalize on the fact that people are home watching more programming than they certainly are going to going to theaters.
Yeah, the direct to home, that market has completely changed. It used to be that wasn't, you wanted your stuff to come out in nationwide release, and now it's like that's not even possible. And then how the heck did you get this movie done under quarantine? Did you guys just go to Texas and shoot it, or?
Very, very significant COVID protocols were in place. We were tested, I think it was like every other day. You know, we had the nasal swab thing happening. And masks, distancing, craft service was completely different. You know, for people that don't work in film, craft services, you know, the food they have around the set that's other than the meals. And usually it's just a big table with a bunch of stuff and you grab what you want. But this was all individually wrapped plastic bags for people. It was serious. I mean, Puerto Rico in general, I think from what I saw, takes COVID protocol very seriously. It's definitely more stringent than what I've seen in a lot of places in the States.
Ryan?
I was just curious about the prep time for you on a project like this. What's the, you know, how many weeks out before you're starting do you like to prep, and what is that prep process like for you?
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of prep for this. I mean, this film was shot very quickly. Like I said, I knew that I was going to be doing a lot of ad-libbing, and so you know, my prep was coming up with, you know, various versions of dialogue that I could present to the director and have mentally available to call upon, you know, if I was able to do it. Another thing that was really critical to what I think was, you know, my being successful in the film was there's another guy that plays kind of he's my Tweedledee to my Tweedledum. And, you know, the fact that we sought each other out immediately when we were in Puerto Rico, went out and had dinner and started talking backstory, ad-libbing, you know, sort of rehearsing and coming up with ideas. And the fact that we clicked really helped.
Yeah. Building that chemistry. Yeah.
None of which I could have done before meeting him.
Right.
Can we chat about Studio City for a few minutes?
Sure.
Yeah.
Love that.
So this might surprise the heck out of you, but and this was all coincidental, but Carolyn Hennessy is going to be my guest tomorrow.
I adore that woman. I love her. She is like a firecracker. she's an amazing person. You know, she does trapeze. Whoa. She's just like full of surprises, that one. Yeah, and she's tremendous on Studio City. We are so lucky to have her as one of our cast members.
We had Kate Linder on a couple of weeks ago. When
Love
you're
Kate
in
too.
Yeah, right. I mean, look, and not just a great actor, but a sweetheart of a human. I mean,
she's
as a flight attendant, still does that work.
Yeah. Right.
And just charities her ass off. I mean, she does enough charities that none of us have to even bother doing it, but she doesn't take that. She encourages people to do it. I wanted to ask you, what kind of, like, you got a black belt, and
actually, I want to correct. I don't have a black belt. I have yet to earn my black belt. So
you studied martial arts.
I do still do martial arts. Yes.
Okay. All right. So you have martial arts, you know, cred. You understand that. How does it work for someone like Carolyn and Kate, who are in the industry for decades? Like, do they continue to season and just get better, or is there a point where you're like, there's no point in getting any better than this? I mean, how does it work for someone who works that long? I mean, same question for you, because you've done this. You've got thousands of hours in front of the camera. What does that mean? Like, at what point does it evolve to something even better?
Well, first of all, I think that if you're not continuing to evolve in anything you're doing, you're stagnating. And if you're stagnating, that is, you know, the beginning of entropy. You know, it's the second law of thermodynamics that, you know, all systems generally, they deconstruct into chaos. And so, you know, if you're not continually trying to improve yourself, then, you know, you really ought to hang it up. Yeah, you mentioned something that, you know, I've got thousands of hours in front of the camera. I don't know if you've ever read Malcolm Gladwell's book, which I think it's Outliers. Where he says, in order to be truly competent in any field of endeavor, you need to have 10,000 hours of experience. And I was reading that going, 10,000 hours, 10,000. And then I started thinking, I said, you know, I've done 1,000 episodes of network television, and you're certainly on set for 10 hours when you do that, not to even think about, you know, the films and everything I've done in stand-up comedy. So I was like, wow, I guess I've kind of earned my 10,000 hours. And, it's kind of like getting your black belt. That's when you start learning. You know what I
Mm.
mean? And so for me, I'm just getting going. And I think that, at least for me, as I've matured as an actor, I feel more comfortable. I feel more comfortable taking chances. I feel, that the challenge, I think, as an actor that's worked a lot, is to try not to go back to your bag of tricks that have worked in the past. Every actor has a bag. Ryan, this. Every
Yeah.
actor has a bag of tricks, stuff that's been successful for us in the past. And if you keep going back to that same bag, then you're just kind of being you're being cliche and derivative. And so for me, the challenge is to always come up with new and fun stuff. And I think I managed to do that in this film. I did a few things I've never done before. It was funny. I did my first line in the film, and I didn't really plan this. And for some reason, this Texas accent started coming out, and I was like, I'm just going to make this guy from Texas. And so, I just carried it through. Obviously, once you start, you have to carry it through. But I just kept sort of channeling Matthew McConaughey in this. All right.
Yes. And when you say a Texas accent, I mean, look, again, you're a pro. You know what you're doing here. Are you doing like an Abilene accent? Are you doing,
I think it's what I would call a amalgamation of a Texas accent.
Okay. Yeah.
Probably with a little bit of a few other southern states thrown in. I did do this pretty quickly because I didn't know I was going to do it. Normally, if I knew I was going to do that, I would have worked with a dialogue coach. I did. There's such great research now on the internet. I mean, you literally can Google how to do a Texas accent, and there's lots of videos to watch. And I watched a lot of guys like Tommy Lee Jones and Matthew McConaughey, and it just started falling in. Slowly but surely it started falling in, and then you just, before you know it, it's pretty comfortable.
Leaving room for you, Ryan.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, I was thinking about the Studio City because you mentioned the bag of tricks, and then you highlight that in Studio City about not falling, on your old tricks and things like that and evolving. And I think that's such a great concept. And then, curious about Studio City, you created, a vehicle for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
What was that process like as an actor and a writer and producer, creating something for yourself?
Well, I've always said I probably never would have gotten into writing and producing if I was one of those guys that just got hired nonstop. But unfortunately, I'm not, and I also, I don't. It's very frustrating and disempowering as an actor to always be waiting for someone else to hire you.
Yeah.
And it's either stop complaining and do something about it, or that's what it's going to be. And I was like, I'm going to go and I'm going to write something for myself. And I think most people will agree that, you should always sort of write what you know. And I've worked off and on for 3 decades in daytime television. There's not a lot of people who know a lot more about it than me, who have experienced it. This is a project that I've been trying to get made for a very, very long time. It's had fits and starts of success, but ultimately, through a couple of really great relationships, not the least of which is my wife, Michelle, who is, an Emmy-nominated writer and producer on the show, and our showrunner and director, Timothy Woodward Jr., we were able to finally get it made. And it's been one of the most rewarding things of my life. It really has. It's incredible. And to have such a talented group of actors surrounding me, Carolyn Hennessy, Tristan Rogers, 3-time Emmy Award winner Sarah Joy Brown, and it goes on and on. It's really fun. It's like I get to go to work and play.
Nice.
When you do a project like this, you're working with your peers and you hire Carolyn or whoever it's going to be. Are they doing this in part because it's fun for them and they give you a sweetheart deal? Do you pay union rate? How do you work that out? Because, if you pay the full freight on everything, it's hopefully hard to get a show off the ground. And,
Yeah. there's different SAG contracts though that allow you, when you're operating at one of the more basic SAG contracts, it's a lot easier to get something made. I mean, I think, as actors, we get asked by friends to do stuff a lot, and generally, most actors, if they're able to do it, do a favor for a friend, they'll do it, and 9 out of 10 times you do it, and the project never sees the light of day. And these guys all came on board. I had worked with all of them, and I think very quickly they drank the Kool-Aid and really loved their characters, and they loved what we were doing. And we got nominated for 8 Emmys right out of the box, which was, I mean, that's incredible. And I'm beyond humbled and grateful for that. And so now, they are, they're the biggest supporters of the show. The show would not be possible without them and their help. And so, our goal is that we hope to be able to expand the format, possibly go to a full 30-minute show at some point, hopefully some point soon, and see the show distributed throughout the world in multiple languages. Actually, very similar to what happened with Cobra Kai. It would be great if we could experience a fraction of the success that Cobra Kai has experienced.
Can you imagine that 40 years later, you're like playing the old senior man on Studio City because these soaps just don't die. Once you get the formula down, they just keep going, man.
Yeah, they do. They do. General Hospital started as a live radio broadcast,
Right.
and then became a black and white show, and it's been on for like, I don't know, 55 years.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
We were kids and Luke and Laura was a thing.
Yeah.
That's forever ago, it's bananas. And then I wanted to ask you, Ryan, because you've done something similar. You guys, you're a young actor. You're waiting for the phone to call. You're going on auditions and stuff. And you're like, let's make LA Macabre.
Right.
And then just wielding that thing. I mean, it looks shiny and pretty and easy now, but yeah, exactly. Pegboarding. Yeah, not even wielding, pegboarding, right? Because that's hard. Talk about that. Compare it with what Sean just said.
Yeah. So basically, kind of the similar thing you were saying, just not looking for waiting around, wanting to create and generate our own work. And luckily, Dan Ast, the creator of LA Macabre, it was his baby. He wrote it, directed it, produced it, edited it, and brought me along board. And but yeah, it was definitely a team effort, all hands on deck to make this thing happen. And now we're on Amazon Prime, and we're also in the running for primetime Emmys right now. So
yeah,
that's exciting. But it was, it's that incremental climb, to the top with this show.
But no fooling though.
Are you in the digital category?
What was that?
Are you in the digital category?
Not no, unfortunately no. We are we are in the prime time for drama series.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right, so we're not competing against each other.
No, not competing against each other. Yeah, no, we're good.
It seems like they kind of threw you guys into the deep end of the pool, though, Ryan.
Yeah. There was a slight chance of being in the daytime category under the digital category, and where we would have, been kind of in the similar category. Of course, the Bay. We competed against the Bay back in the day. I know you've been in the Bay, Sean, and that was, many years ago at the ISAs. LA Macabre, the first season was in the running there. But yeah, it's just that climbing up.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on that. That's great. I'm gonna watch it this weekend. I'm gonna watch your show.
Oh, right on. Thanks, man. Thank you.
Cool.
How impossible are these projects, though, guys? I mean, look, you're trying to make a calling card, show that you guys have different muscles, get people thinking about you and everything, but it's still a lot of work to put a TV show together for both of you. How impossible is where you're at right now? Or is this something that anybody could be doing and should be doing if they've got the desire to do it?
Well, I don't think it's impossible. I think it's very difficult. For me, it absolutely has been a team effort. I've been able to do this because of, my partners and their individual skill sets, some of which I don't have, some that I have that they don't have. And, it's kind of like hobo stew. Everybody brings something to the pot, and then you eat. I think in a lot of respects, this is a great time to be an actor, COVID aside, because when I was coming up, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have smartphones, and the big thing was, hey, what do you look like on tape? Everyone wanted to see, and the catch 22 of that was generally you had to either have somebody hire you so that you could then have tape of yourself, or I don't need tape anymore, and then or you had to go and pay a company that would have you come in, and they would film a scene and edit it, etc. Now basically anybody with a smartphone can do a monologue, grab a buddy, and do a scene and upload it to Vimeo, and you've got something now, something that's a calling card that can at least show somebody what you look like on screen. Obviously, making a show is a whole different deal, but it starts with having the I don't know, it starts with having the wherewithal just to say, look, I'm going to do something, and I kind of believe the universe tends to support us when we take a leap, but you got to take a leap.
Yeah, and be ready to fall for a bit before you get caught too.
Yeah.
I mean, Michael Broderick's a friend of mine. He also is an actor, and he did something similar to that. He took Jack Carr's universe that he's created. Jack Carr is a former Navy SEAL who's a writer now, and Chris Pratt is making his series or book into a series, right? And so you got all these big names behind it, and Michael's like, well, I'd want to work on that. I'm a Marine. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and make a short, and it's within the universe, but it's not on the theme. It's just two dudes in a bar from that universe talking,
right?
And Jack Carr loved it, and it gets hundreds of thousands of spins, and now it's like, well, of course Michael Broderick's part of this project because he jumped,
right.
An 11-minute short. You can make a chance.
I mean, waiting to have somebody hire you is a really frustrating endeavor. Like I said, it's very disempowering. Generally speaking, especially when you're, competing for something at the network level, there's going to be 5 guys that have got way more experience, or they've got a holding deal with the network, or a myriad of other reasons why they are probably going to be a more desirable choice. And, when you go out and you raise money yourself and you make your own project, it's sink or swim. But if you swim, you're the guy that did it.
Yeah. You're a swimmer. That's what you are.
Yeah.
And people like swimmers. They can bet on them.
Yes.
And you're getting your own project created. I mean, you're producing it, you're getting it written, you're getting it published, you're getting an audience. At some point, you no longer need CBS. Like, it's great when they show up. You're like, I've got 100,000 people that are going to watch. And I'm not going to. Yeah.
It's always nice to get hired by the networks.
Right. And I'm not saying anything bad about that. But if you put 100,000 people in front of your show reliably, your negotiating position is a lot better,
For sure.
Yeah. Ryan, when it comes to LA Macabre, talk about that pegboard. I mean, because it's not easy to do what you guys did, and it didn't just happen overnight. Like, you really had to.
Yeah, it started with a YouTube show. First of all, it was geared for YouTube, and it was kind of shortened episodes, anywhere from 5 minutes to 20 something minutes, and then that was season 1, and we knew we wanted to expand. Dan wrote a 3-season story with all these characters and had it all outlined and ready to go, but he knew that the world was going to expand. It was going to get more production value, more complicated, more characters, and so we ran a Kickstarter campaign, and that in itself was an entire journey. I mean, season 1 getting on YouTube is one chapter, and then kickstarting for season 2 is a whole nother chapter of the journey. And then writing and producing and pulling all kinds of favors that we could on a shoestring budget to make season 2. And then to try to get that shopped around, land on Amazon, and now go for this Emmy run. And again, it's just anything that we can do to get eyes on the show, get people seeing it, and for this season, award season, get people to consider it. So yeah, it's just every step of the way we're pushing and using all the resources that we can.
How competitive are you, Sean? Like, when you hear that, and you guys are maybe you're not in the same category for the Emmys, but you guys are vying for an audience. Is that, how does that feel? Like, are you excited for running this team or what?
I'll tell you, and I talk about this in my book at the risk of sounding like it's a gratuitous plug for my new book, Way the
No, we're here to
Cobra.
plug your book, so plug away.
Outwaythecobra.com. Uh, I sincerely believe that we live in a world of abundance. I believe that other people's success does not cut into the possibility of my success. I try and be as supportive as I can for everybody else that is trying to do the same thing. Am I competitive? Yeah, I'm competitive, but I'm competitive the most against myself. That's really where my competition lies, being better than I was yesterday, taking on things that I may initially think that I can't do. And then, you know, when you're able to actually pull it off, the feeling is really, really sweet.
Ryan?
Yeah. Competitive. I'm not very competitive. I'm more of a collaborative. I try to lean more towards cooperation versus competition. I believe that, you know, if we all work together, kind of share the information, pool the resources, you're going to be able to have a stronger network of people that you can work together with in the future. If it's competition, there's some level of, you know, kind of not telling the people that you know are in your same category about this great opportunity or about this great audition. And I've seen that happen in others. And it just, I don't know, it breeds a little more, it's hard to have like a healthy competition in this job when you are running into the same people over and over again. You want to work with them, I think. That's my philosophy, I think.
Yeah, I think it's the difference between a zero-sum game situation and a win-win scenario. And I think very, very few times in life, combat being one of them, do we engage in a zero-sum game where you have to lose for me to win. I think most of the time, if you can seek out winning, but in doing so, also help the other party achieve their goal, I think it's a much more desirable and certainly mutually beneficial road to traverse.
Is that because you guys are artists that you look at it that way, or is that just how life works?
I don't know, Ryan. What do you think?
I've had a lot of debates with my friend about, you know, whether competition breeds, you know, advancement in human civilization or if it's cooperation that breeds it. And I think there's elements of both for sure. So I don't think it's just the artist perspective. I do tend to look at what works in the world, what works in nature, what works in politics and business. And I just think as a globalized civilization now that we are, cooperation, I think, is the way that works. The world works. Yeah.
But there's always room for ruthlessness, right? I mean, the music industry is full, right? But it's just a fact. Like in the music industry, you need the big labels to fund your success. They've got to make 100 bets to pay off on the 100 bets, right? And so they've got to find someone. So they do that, and they keep your masters, and you don't have all the access to all the money because they're playing a longer game than you are. And then you do that to your friends. Your friend, you're like, hey, why don't you come on and feature here? And I'm going to pay you $150 to sing, whatever it is, right? There's stories like this all the time in music. So the same thing must happen in show business where there are folks out there, they teach you the game by being ruthless so that you yourself can become ruthless and get the money that is in the machine. Is that right or no?
I would say that that's the pitfall and the trap.
Okay.
I would say the trap is to allow yourself, look, listen, there are definitely times when, you know, I have to, you know, cinch up my big boy pants and, you know, things need to get things done. But I
Right.
really always try and be conscientious of other people's feelings and have a sense of empathy for everybody. And it goes back to what I said about not creating zero-sum games. I have certainly been, victim's not the right word because I don't believe in victimhood, but I've been in positions before where things have been kind of ruthless and I was on the receiving end. And if you're smart, you learn from that, but it doesn't mean that you have to emulate it.
Ryan?
I mean, I've never had a situation where I've been taught, especially in the business, by an acting teacher, an agent, a casting director, anything like that, about being ruthless in the way that you're describing. I just haven't had that experience yet. So yeah.
Stick around.
yeah.
I got my first "You'll never work in Hollywood again" speech on my first movie.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You'll never come on the Break It Down show again, Sean. Yeah. There you go, another one. So let's talk about your book. And then again, like when I say that you're busy, you and I've met, we've talked about a podcast, and you're such a busy dude. It's hard to figure out how to get these things done. And yet here you are cranking things out. You got your own TV show, you're on TV shows, you're writing books, you're doing a lot, man. And so do you know how to relax? And then let's talk about the book.
Oh, I for sure know how to relax. Believe me. Yeah, no, I absolutely do. Look, I'm really fortunate that my wife Michelle is my creative partner, and she is the engine which is able to allow me to do so much of what I do. I'm convinced probably none of it would happen without her, and we make a really good team together. I absolutely relax and do things to have a good time, but I also really like what I do. Like I enjoy production. I enjoy writing, and the thing with the book is that for the longest time I thought I got into acting because I wanted to express myself. Like I grew up in a small town, and I wanted to look beyond the immediate horizon of being kind of this small town guy. But as I got older, I realized really that the reason I got into acting was because I wanted to inspire people. And as I went a little further down the road, I realized that acting wasn't the only way that I could do it, that I could do it with, I could do it with my writing. I could do it with my motivational speaking and my coaching and all of that. So for me, that's one of my biggest whys. Your why is what drives you. It's what picks you up after you've had your ass kicked. It's what lets you do another rep in the gym or whatever. And inspiring people is one of my whys. And so I'm really eager to get this book in people's hands because I know it's got the ability to really help people change their lives. So I'm excited and I'm into it.
Nice. This book, did you have notes that you had collected over years to make this book, or was it kind of like you had to look back at everything that you were doing and what was the motivational insights that helped you and put that in the book, or how did the process go?
Well, the process was really that I was working on another book, and a lot of the material that is in Way of the Cobra, the embryonic pieces of information were from the other book. And then I decided that it would be a really good format to create it as a dojo where I'm the sensei. Look, obviously the success of Cobra Kai and all of that is such a juggernaut that I thought it would be interesting to kind of piggyback that. The book doesn't talk about Cobra Kai or anything like that, with the exception of my talking about the story of how I got the role in Karate Kid 3, because it absolutely dovetails into one of the lessons. Cobra is actually an acronym formed from the words character, optimization, balance, respect, and abundance. And a Cobra is somebody that they've unleashed their inner badass. They're leading their best life, their most authentic life. So it's about becoming a Cobra. So I talk about this in the book. I said, there's a point in my life about 3 years ago where I was 35 pounds overweight. I had no prospects for work. I had some pretty significant successes. I'd had a couple of epic failures in my life, and I was looking in the mirror and I was thinking, okay, what's next? And I decided that I was going to start doing some things very differently. And rather than wait for my ship to come in, I was going to build the damn ship. And so I started employing some very specific strategies in my life, which I talk about in the book. And those strategies allowed me to make monumental changes in my life that have allowed me to get Studio City made, allowed me to get my second book, Success Factor X, become an Amazon new release bestseller. And it's because I started doing some things very differently. And those are the strategies that I share in this book.
Nice.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And we have in the nation in general, it's a time where we're often looking at somebody else for the faults in our lives. If we tune up our own shop first get our own engine running well, man, that's a whole lot easier on the system than trying to tear a system down because it doesn't match your reality, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's like I say in the book, victimhood has no place in our dojo, and it's true. I mean, I think largely and unfortunately, our society has become one of those societies where, a lot of people like to identify as a victim for something because it's got benefits. It gives you common ground with other people. It elicits empathy. All sorts of things. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't people that have experienced things in their life that could be classified as being a victim, but to live in a perpetual state of victimhood is just a horrible way to live your life.
It doesn't seem to follow with what you guys do too. I mean, Ryan, you could be a victim of going to, casting calls over and over again and never getting jobs, or looking at 25 other versions of you there, all like, oh, we all have painter's pants on. Huh. But you went out and did this project. And again, you guys jumped into the void. Is that because you guys look at yourselves first as actors? Like, I have to be the best polished product. I have to show what else I can do so that I'm not dependent upon someone else's perception of me. Is that how you approach that, Ryan?
Both as an actor and as a person, I want to approach life with, there's going to be rejection out there, especially as an actor in this profession. There's going to be rejection. And if I focus on that and say, well, I didn't get it because I'm a victim because somebody else had some other leg up or something like that, then I'm always focusing on the negative, and I'm not going to get anywhere with that. So focusing on the positive, what I did do well, man, I crushed that audition. I didn't get it, but I personally leveled up and crushed that audition, and that cast director can remember that. Or I did everything I could, or maybe I didn't do everything I could. Maybe I didn't have some alternate prepared for that thing, and that's a lesson learned. And then the next time I go in, I'm going to have all sorts of things prepared. Wow. You focus on that positive, you're going to propel yourself forward. You focus on the negative and be a victim all the time, you're stagnant, or you're going backwards, So I look at that in life and as acting.
You're spot on. I mean, again, I talk about that in the book. I say, the majority of the time that I audition for something, I don't get it. And if I attached a negative story to every time that I didn't get a role, I wouldn't be able to set foot in another room. And so I look at it like, did I get to audition for somebody who hasn't seen me before? Did I get to prepare for something outside of my wheelhouse? Did I not do a good job? And it's time to do a self-diagnostic and see, where I fell short. But as long as you can attach a positive outcome to everything, I think that's really critical. And, I tell this little analogy in the book that there's two boys, each raised in an alcoholic household where the father can't keep a job. He's abusive to the mother and the kids. One kid grows up and mirrors his father and becomes an abusive alcoholic. The other kid grows up and says, I'm never going to drink. I'm never going to put my family in jeopardy and in a position where they feel unsafe. And you ask both of them, how did you arrive at this reality? And they say, I watched my father. They each attached a different story to it. One, was something that allowed them to sink into victimhood, do the same thing, and the other motivated them not to do it. And I'm the concept of story is so powerful in our life. There's very few things that we believe are true. Most of them are stories that we formed through a prism of various different things that have colored our perceptions. And since basically none of it's true anyway, as far as if you were looking at it absolutely historically, why not attach a positive story to it so that it benefits you?
I like that a lot.
That's great. No, that's great. How does this stuff apply? Like, I mean, you guys are actors. How does this apply? Like, no fooling to someone's life who's like, okay, great, whatever, but I'm not going to be an actor. I'm stuck at a completely different base.
This has nothing to do with being an actor. My acting teacher, the late Roy London, used to say, I have more in common with a successful plumber than I do with an unsuccessful acting teacher. And the fact is that there are common denominators that everybody needs to exhibit to become successful. And a couple of them are real simple. The most simple one, the golden rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. If you can live that, you've got at least a 50-50 shot at being successful. If you can then behave with integrity and you can be kind to other people, not nice, but kind. I talk about the difference. Nice is conforming to social mores. Nice is being polite. Kind sometimes is doing the difficult thing and risking not being liked by somebody to do what is best for them, what is truly from the heart good for them. And so I talk a lot about the difference between, nice and kind. And if you can do those simple things, you got a really good shot at being successful if you have a decent work ethic. You don't have to be the most talented person in the room. It helps, but I'll tell you, again, something I talk about in the book. Talent can be a real curse, because when talent doesn't work hard, hustle will beat talent all the time. And a lot of times people that are talented think that that's enough, and it's not. Talent is something that God gave us, something that we've been able to develop over time. But the ability to hustle and be driven when combined with talent is an unstoppable force.
Wow.
Yeah, it is. And I like to
audience.
say that. Yeah, well, we had to let that grow for a minute. One of the things I like to say to folks is there's two things basically. One is that there's very few people that cannot simply, in the United States, simply outwork their problems. Maybe you're in the wrong problem set in the first place and you evolve into an adjacent problem set, and all of a sudden you find out this is where you're at. But the entire time you're growing. And like that goofy diagram that Vice President Harris had out about opportunity and how someone's below somebody else. Just keep walking around the mountain. Keep trying to climb the mountain. You don't have to have a rope. You just keep going, and you will find opportunities, whether you're a plumber or an actor. If you are like so determined, and I learned this from Sly Stone, the musician. He said, if my music isn't good enough, I don't deserve to eat. And you're competing with someone like that, who's like, that's how hard I'm going to do. I'm going to work until this stuff is great.
Right. Yeah. I think it's another issue with society. We have gone from being a meritocracy where, it doesn't matter the color of your skin, your gender, or anything. The best performance or the best idea should win, but that's no longer the case. We've now fallen into the society where, people get trophies for 7th place. And the reason is that everybody is afraid that they're going to shame somebody. And the thing that I think people need to understand is there's two types of shame. There is the humiliating type of shame, which is toxic shame, which nobody should have to experience. But then there's another type, which is a positive form of shame, which lets you know when you didn't do your best, which lets you know that you made a mistake and you need to recalibrate what you're doing. And it comes from, I guess, it comes from a dissonance. It comes from knowing what the right thing to do is, but not doing it and falling short. And that type of shame doesn't come externally. It doesn't come from people holding you up to ridicule. It comes from inside yourself. And that, I don't believe, is a negative form of shame. I believe the other form is negative and not beneficial. But I really think that, we would be well served to balance the need to be inclusive and make everybody feel, like they've got a shot, with things being a meritocracy, based on being the best you can be, and that's what wins out, rather than kind of, in some cases, lowering the bar for everybody.
Yeah, I can get down with that. The other thing I talk about is in being tolerant is hard. It means you have to. It's easy to tolerate things you like, fellas, right? Like I like cookies. It's so easy to be tolerant of cookies, but when you have to tolerate something that's hard, because that's where you develop it. Tolerance is by finding things that are difficult and challenging yourself. That's when, and you're supposed to fail at intolerant. Like, we're intolerant people. We all have our moments, but if you recognize like how often you do that, and often folks I talk to are my friends, they'll say, I'm a very tolerant person, except for, well, you can't put except for in that sentence. You have to tolerate someone else's freedom ultimately, right? And their ability to go after it and get what they want to get through their own hard work. And we're not talking about harming anybody. We're talking about the ability to let that person live their life as they choose to, and not judge them or castigate them or assign them some kind of evil. If you
Yeah, I
can
think
work and mind
that's
your own,
you just
you know?
you just hit the nail on the head. I mean, you don't need to vilify somebody's entire personage with ad hominem attacks because you disagree with a stance or a view that they have. I've got a lot of friends with whom I disagree about certain things, and they're still my friends.
Right.
But once you start painting someone as being across the board evil, the other, etc., there's simply no room for there's no room for dialogue because there's no tolerance.
Yeah.
Everybody comes with a catalog of opinions and a catalog of their life philosophies, how they their lifestyles. And so often it's easier to just kind of outright, oh, I disagree with this one portion of their entire being, so I'm gonna write off all of it because I can't get behind, this one section of their philosophy. Where it's like, if we break it down and go, okay, let's compartmentalize this. Let's figure out and hone in on really what we disagree about and go, okay, cool. We disagree about this thing.
Right.
Still your friend. I'm still, have all these other interests that are common ground that we can meet on. Okay, we can decide on if we want to debate this, or we can leave it alone and say that we disagree with this thing, but don't write off the whole person,
Absolutely.
Hey, Sean, I'm curious. I want to change the topic a little bit. You mentioned that director that you've worked with 5 or 6 times or whatever it is. What is it like to find someone who, when you mutually get each other, and then how many of those people are there in the industry? I mean, can you have 10 people that are like, I get Sean, Sean gets me. It's never a problem. I mean, certain people work together all the time, right? We see that in the industry, right?
Sure. You see like Quentin Tarantino has a group of actors he works with. It's really great because you first of all develop a verbal shorthand. You develop a nonverbal shorthand. I think there's a level of trust, which is really great. I mean, it really is a fantastic feeling as an actor to have that with a director, because most times you're thrown on set and you're working with somebody that you haven't worked with before. You don't know how they work. They have seen your work and they have an idea of what you're bringing to it, but the inner machinations of how that comes to be, it could be anything. You could be difficult, they could be difficult, so it's really good. I have a couple people that I'm fortunate enough to have that with, probably two or three. I mean, having one is great. I always refer to it as, you have buyers in this business. For years, my buyers were the producers of daytime television. Okay, I'm no longer working in daytime television. I now have new buyers. My buyers are certain other directors that I work with, my partner in Studio City, and having new buyers is a really exciting thing. And when it goes beyond that, and they are also creative partners, then you're really fortunate, and that's kind of how I feel.
Ryan, what are your thoughts on that concept?
Well, I think that's like I said earlier about cooperation and building out that network. It'd be amazing to have a hub of people, hub of creative networks that you're working with constantly, because it makes the shorthand, when you're collaborating with people, it's a lot easier to gel with folks. Luckily I got to do another kind of self-starting feature film that's going to be entering into festivals this year called Dinner Club, and made it with friends, and hope to be working with that same group again on future projects. We've got things in the works for that. And it's like, it becomes a little easier to get things off the ground. It becomes a little smoother to work on projects when you have those people in your corner that you have a relationship with, a creative relationship with. So trying to build that tribe right now.
I'm curious, Ryan, I want to ask you next, Sean, and then we'll close out here. Ryan and I are from a small town called Benicia, not a very big place, but it's gorgeous. It is one of the most beautiful towns in the Bay Area. But do folks back at home get how incredible your success is? And you're still going up the mountain. You're still got a long way to go, but
I got a long way. Oh yeah.
Like there's a thing I always say, like, I'm going to have an actor on the show, but I have to qualify like where they are on Actor Mountain. Like, you're an actor. You really get work. You do it. How impossible is that? Right. And then you go back to Benicia and they're like, are you still doing that acting thing?
Yeah, I think it becomes crystallized in people's minds if you are on whatever platform
Yeah.
they're the buyer of. You know, if they see you on a commercial for a video game they like, then they're excited that you did
Yeah.
something. Until they see you on TV for something, they're excited. But until that happens, it's kind of like I could have the best show on Amazon that I'm really proud of and really excited. It's my best work, and oh, I don't have Amazon. Like,
My
okay, well,
sister and I always joke that I was the preferred child when I was working and on a show, and when I wasn't, she was the preferred child. Yeah, I mean, I think. Listen, I think like I said, I come from a great small town called Newcastle, Pennsylvania, and I get a lot of hometown support there. And this career is it's a marathon. It's not a 50-yard dash, and most actors have long periods when they're unemployed, they're looking for work, they're kind of going back to the drawing board and recreating, etc. And yeah, I mean, I've gotten all the same questions. Hey, you still acting? You still doing that acting thing? A lot of it comes from my family. I remember up until a certain point in my career, my mom was like, you could still go to law school. So actually funny. I actually drew on that for this movie with Bruce Willis, where I'm walking around this house and I'm just talking to myself where I go, I must be dumber than a damn bag of hammers. My mom always said, go to law school, but no, I had to do this. And I'm just talking, but I'm just thinking that voice inside my head about my mom saying, are you sure you don't want to go to law school? And I was like, Mom, I'm an actor. This is what I do. But unless you're doing something at the moment, people tend to be less supportive.
Everybody should go check out Sean's website, seankanan.actor. Everything's there, books, all that stuff, but especially pre-buy Way of the Cobra. And you can understand like Sean's great advice. And actually, all the books are based on Sean's insights. And as an established guy who knows what life is like, as a seasoned human, you've been through struggles.
I like
fantastic philosophies. Yeah, fantastic.
Thanks, brother.
You've had the adversity, and you're like, here I am on the other side of these adversities, and this is how you do it. Follow the advice or don't, but buy the book, for crying out loud. Support the man, and for sure, if you guys, I love Studio City. I love what you did. It's such a cool. I kind of look. I explained it the way I can. I don't know if it's the way you want me to explain it. It's sort of like a soap opera, Gary Shandling, where like you're seeing,
right? Yes,
the stuff,
a really good analogy with a little bit of entourage thrown in, I think.
Yeah. But I just wanted to watch it. I'm like, you're not just seeing a soap opera,
We just put up 5 new episodes on Amazon.
Great.
So I don't know if you've seen that, but we filmed those during COVID, which boy, I tell you, that's tricky being a really small production and filming with all of those protocols. But we have 5 new episodes, some great guest stars. So please check it out on Amazon Prime.
And then I'm going to bring Ryan up here on the screen. Definitely check out La Macabre or LA Macabre, whichever way you want to say it. I want everybody to look for it, right, Ryan? It's on Amazon, and it just grows and grows and gets crazier and crazier. And in a lot of ways resonates with some of the kookiness we see with people. You're like, what planet do you guys live on? Like it's very timely. I felt like so.
I can't wait to watch
cult stuff or what time? Sorry, timely. What with the cult stuff?
Very timely, with like people like this kind of being in their own world, and I don't know. If you watch it, you're going to be like, yeah. Not that there's murderous cults out there, but it's a great way to kind of have a commentary on society.
Yeah, it is. Well, also there's kind of a resurgence of kind of cult, entertainment stuff like that too. Surrounding the idea of cults, looking into them, docu-series, crime dramas. So if you like all that stuff, LA Macabre is a perfect show for you. And even if you don't, it's a great ride. And like you were saying, it keeps ramping up every episode and right up till the end. It's a big ramp up. So
everybody go check out Ryan Hellquist, and you'll see all his stuff. And then of course Sean Kanan, who's incredible. Thank you so much for coming on, Sean. Hey guys, anything to say in closing? Anything in closing?
If anyone would like to follow me, you can follow me on Instagram at sean.kanan or Twitter at seankanan, and I try and do my best to respond to everybody, and you can keep up with what I'm doing.
I don't.
Stand by.
Hey, thanks for watching the show. I really appreciate it. Right here, you can subscribe. Please do that. It makes the show grow. Hit that notification bell so you know which incredible guest is coming up next. Down below is the PayPal link. You can put a small subscription in. That is an enormous help. All that money goes right back into the show. And then right up over here are the next episodes you should listen to, curated by yours truly. Thank you so much